Yo, 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 what is up? It is intentional grounding. New home, kind of same spot though. Rob, dog, how's it going, man? Like, is it, we had a great time on Sunday at the bar. The
I,
week started off well.
some of us had better times than others, but yeah, no, I mean it was for somebody who said that it wasn't a playoff game, that it didn't start, or I don't know, I don't remember exactly what you said. Playoffs didn't start or whatever. You sure went after it like it was a playoff game, Sterls. You know what I mean?
Well, sometimes you get yourself hyped up for the fight, right?
Uh huh.
I mean, you had me drinking at 9:30 in the
Oh,
morning, so I'm gonna
oh,
put that on
oh.
you, player.
No. Somebody makes their own decisions, and I did not influence those at all. These were choices that you made.
No, those are choices that I made. And you know what? I felt like I made the right choices. I felt like, it set us up pretty good for the day. But, my statement still stands. Like, the playoffs start now,
Yeah, I saw that little screen you put up, and I'm confused. Are the playoffs starting or are they ending? What are we doing here, Steve?
They're starting. They're starting.
Well, they're about to end for somebody on Sunday.
They're about to end for somebody. But welcome to Intentional Grounding right here on the Buffalo Media Network. This is also the home of the Charge Podcast. We're doing big things over here. So like I said before, we got a lot of stuff going on. Me and Rob are going to be doing this all off season, all in season. We're going to have TD on here too. So we're going to be doing the damn thing over here for quite a while. So for those of you who are just now tuning in, thank you for listening. But here's the deal, man. So does this not feel like the week of all weeks? Like for the Bill season? I mean, it doesn't get much better than this. And there's so much visceral shit talking. You know what? I have the right to be biased here. I haven't seen much from the Bills talking to the Ravens fans, but there's a lot of shit talking, a lot of stuff from the Ravens flock, or however you want to say it, about us Bills fans, and I'm not here for it, dog. I'm just not.
First of all, we have amongst our fan base plenty of shit talkers. Don't act like
I don't know.
Don't
any
act
of
like
them.
we are without
blemish.
Okay. All right. I don't know if that's what you want to hitch your wagon to. But I don't agree with you, man. I don't agree with you.
Of course really you don't. Of course you
don't. Everybody in Bills Mafia wants to paint this as like the ultimate matchup. They're doing breakdowns on shows saying that this is, the matchup of a lifetime when it comes to divisional rounds and blah, blah, blah. No, man. Everybody knows who the king is. We ain't done till we're shooting the king, dog. Like, this is not the king. And granted, he's great. And granted, you got to beat him to get there. But I don't like everybody talking like this is the game. And even if we win this one and play the king, the witch, and the wizard, right? Even if we do that, even that's not going to be the one. We have a very specific goal in mind here, okay?
Okay. There's some perspective there. Like I can see that, but man, being a prisoner of the moment right now, sure feels it makes me want to have to drink. Okay, that's where I'm at this week, because if you're a Bills fan and you're not worried about this matchup, whatever you're smoking or taking as an illegal substance, I would love to partake in that with you, because, dog, it's unreal today. Like, going to work, everybody wants to talk to me about, the Bills and the Broncos, but then they always, well, you guys are playing Bills are playing the Ravens this weekend, man. It doesn't look good for you guys. And I'm like, yeah, it can go either way, but I feel you.
This is the problem with not ending up with the 1 seed. Is now you've got to go through at least 2 of these guys, if not 3 of them, to get to where you want to go, and it's going to make you do that, right? Because the AFC is crazy. And so instead of giving yourself a game against Houston and CJ Stroud, here's your MVP that you're playing round 2, and then you play the 3-time Super Bowl champion round 3, and then you get a formidable opponent out of the out of the NFC if you make it to round 4. That's the path. That's the path you gave yourself.
I know. And that's tough, man, because, I tried to put myself as if I were a Kansas City Chiefs fan. And I'm just looking, I'm like, man, the path to the Super Bowl for the Chiefs, it's just fucking easy, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's not easy, but it's that 1 seed makes a huge difference, man. They were sitting at home last weekend. Now you get CJ Stroud in Houston.
Right. And they, I mean, listen, I give them credit for the win, right? But let's be honest. I mean, the Chargers, they shot themselves in the foot time after time. I mean, I'll be honest. I'm a big Jim Harbaugh stan. Before the game, on our other show, your NFL pregame show, which will be on Saturday, I picked them to win. I felt like the Chargers were the better team, and we saw the old Justin Herbert rear its ugly head, and it just wasn't a pretty sight.
I don't think that Houston got right from the game, but I do think that they feel better about themselves going into this Kansas City game than they thought they were going to. If you thought Jim Harbaugh was going to stop the Chargers from charging, you got a rude awakening on Saturday.
Jim Harbaugh hung the moon for me, so he can do no wrong.
Okay, I mean that's fine. So I mean, here we are, and I don't know. Yeah, of course you are nervous going into this game. That being said, it's not even the witch and the wizard. It's not even the guy. It's not even the and don't get me wrong, we'll break down last week's game. We'll look forward to next week's game. But big picture, Sturls, this isn't even who we're shooting at. It's not who we're going after.
The witch and the wizard.
Last year, if we had beaten KC in the divisional round and lost in the championship game to Lamar, how would you have felt?
Good. I feel pretty good. I'd feel pretty good.
Right. This year, if we lose in the divisional round to Lamar, how are you going to feel?
Not good.
No.
Because I feel like the expectation level has risen.
They have to get it done at some point, right? Not saying that they deserve to or anything like that, but when I say they have to get it done, what I mean is we're going to talk about them in different ways if they don't. They're already backs against the wall when it comes to legacy. And this team, that quarterback, this early window that they're in, and I still think they're in the early part of his career, the early window.
Right.
But this early window that they're in, maybe this is the second window. We can have a conversation about that with all the changes in the offseason. So maybe you can call this the second window. But if you don't get it done, I mean, we're going to start having conversations about this group, and they're going to sound a lot like the 90s.
Oh, see, man, that's hard to swallow. I mean, look, you're right about that, right? I just can we just get there? Can we just win the damn game? to play the Chiefs, and it's like it's like, okay.
But then if we get there, you're going to be begging for the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh, can we just
get to the Super Bowl?
Yeah. Right.
It's never going to end. I'll never be satisfied.
Big, man. It's the playoffs. They're all big.
I know.
They're all big.
I know, man. I don't know, man. I feel so waffly. Like my it's like first of all, I look at the game from an analyst position, from the X's and O's, and from watching the all 22, and then I look at it from a fan perspective, and I'm like, man, these two worlds are just like having a hard time coexisting this week. Like last week, I felt like you and I, we broke down that Broncos game pretty well. I felt like, on our show, we mentioned some things that I think other shows talked about, like some of the tendencies that we saw and how the Bills would attack and some of the things to look for. And we were right about those things. And so this week, man, it's just all over the place. I mean, obviously it's only Tuesday, right? And we still got a long week to go, but man, it's just it's tough this week. It's very tough.
So before you get all in your feels, and pounding shots. What was that you took a shot of?
It was some hen dog, some Hennessy. I know.
Before you get all in your feels and start pounding shots of Hennessy, let's talk about what happened last week. Let's talk about what needs to happen this week. Because, this is it, man. This is what we do this for. This is what we're here for.
Yeah.
This is what I clipped in 30 years ago for. Okay? This is it.
This is it.
All right, so let's do it.
Hold on. Okay, so should I drink some wine while I had a shot? Should I drink some wine? I mean, listen, dog.
You gotta do whatever makes you happy, man. But here's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Here's what I'm thinking, right?
All right, let's hear it.
If you would have told me 20 years ago that I had a team that had a quarterback that was so dominant that I won a playoff game 31-7, a playoff game 31-7, and that you were feeling this way after that, come on. I mean, this is it. This is what we're here for, dog. This is it. Go take it. Oh, I'm hyped.
See, you're hyped, and I'm scared.
Why?
It's PTSD, man.
They've never been here before. Not for us. Not for us. They've never been here before.
I think I need wine now.
Okay, I'll tell you what. You have some wine, and I'll break down the Denver game.
No, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the Denver game. So,
all right. So, go ahead.
After that first drive, I mean, I looked at you, and you, as you always say, we don't freak out on the first drive. I'll be honest. I wasn't freaked out, but I was just like, damn, is this what we're, the PTSD feelings of the Bills and the defense not showing up. I was all the way there. I ain't gonna lie. I was all the way there. I'm like, 5 plays and he hit you on a moon ball to Franklin in the end zone. This is what you prepared for. You talk about scripted plays. The first 10 plays, they beat you in 5. And I'm just, okay, so the alarm went off. I'm like, okay, here we go, dude. If this is the kind of game we're gonna get, well, we better buckle up. Josh is in the offense is gonna have to score at least 30 points to win this game. And what we saw,
let's just take what you felt at your worst. You felt at your worst, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You said the defense isn't prepared. Did you end up feeling that way?
At the end, no.
Okay. You said Josh is going to have to score 30 points to win this game. How many points did Josh score?
31.
Okay. All right. So at your worst, we were still there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What else? What's next?
So here's the deal. So for those of you watching the show, I'm sure some of you are going to be like, yeah, man, I feel what you feel, Sterls. And then others, you're going to be like, yeah, I like with Rob here. So we're, this is therapy, not just for me, but this is therapy for all. Okay.
It's therapy for you, dog.
Hey, well,
we don't freak out about first drives. I should go back and actually do the math. Because I started saying that a couple of years ago because it felt like every first drive, a team walks right down the field on us and scores a touchdown. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then guess what happens? 31 unanswered points. Absolutely shut them down. They couldn't do a thing. They couldn't run the ball. They couldn't throw the ball. The only time they gained yards after that was Bo Nix on scrambles, and then they missed a field goal. That was it. They couldn't do a damn thing. They couldn't do a thing.
Yeah. No, they locked him up. Locked him up. But we really
Milano had another good game.
He's back.
I didn't say it. You did. But
I did.
They started running a spy once Bo Nix was getting those scrambles. They started running Milano as a spy. They did that a little bit before that too. It wasn't just
right.
But if you don't think that's practice for next week, you're high off your ass, right? Like, okay,
or drunk.
so, right? So Matt Milano, okay, with a little bit of time running some spy on Bo Nix, great. Your two corners, I thought, played really well. Your safeties were good.
Yeah.
Defensive line, you could have gotten a little bit more from, but guess who had the juice? And this is something that I predicted last week. I can't remember if you agreed with me or not, but listen, Vaughn's an old ass man. I get it. He knows his big moments. He knows when to bring it. And when you only need 30% of the snaps from him, guess what?
He delivered. Vaughn delivered.
Guess what? He was there, man. He was there. He was making a difference, making an impact.
I mean, he was the best defensive lineman on Sunday by far.
Oh, that's interesting. Would I say that?
Yeah. I mean,
and he was good.
The amount, the pressure that Vaughn applied, I mean, he was in the backfield in Nix's face a lot. I mean, he strung together some good games recently, and I would like to see more of Vaughn, not just on third downs, but just sprinkled in a little more than 30% of snaps. I mean,
I don't think this week's the week for that. Do you think this week's the week for that? I don't think this week is the week for that.
Vaughn, you know what? The week 4 was his last game before the suspension. He didn't play a lot of snaps in the first Ravens game.
Yeah, he just the way that he wins is getting so deep in the backfield, and that is a dangerous thing to be doing against Lamar Jackson. But now, next week, if there is a next week, you put that little patch on his shoulder, right? And I don't think they give you a patch for the AFC Championship, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You tell him this is the AFC Championship game. You get him keyed up that you're playing the Chiefs, who he already hates, Patrick Mahomes, who's hurt him mentally and emotionally, and let him. Yeah, I'm with you. More snaps there. That's if there's a next week. Like, it's not for this week.
I don't know, man. I feel like Vaughn in his run fits has been better. Like I feel comfortable putting him out there. A little mix of him and AJ Epinesa.
The run fit, I'm not worried about. He, like you said, I thought he's been good. That's not what I'm concerned about. What I'm concerned is how he wins off the edge, especially against bigger competition, is to get deep. And that just means Lamar Jackson steps right up and right out of the pocket. You know what I mean? Which
we've seen Vaughn have an issue with since he's been with the Bills. And even in his Denver career, it's nothing new here.
Well, I mean, listen, for an athletic freak like he is, he's a smaller guy.
Yeah.
And so don't get me wrong. He's got a straight arm. He's got a bull rush. Like he will. He put Mike McGlinchey back in Bo Nix's lap a couple times.
Yeah.
But that's the move he's got to set up to use, right? Like, and so sometimes he has to win with his speed and his athleticism. And against Lamar, if you try to do that, I think you're going to get torched.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. It'll be interesting to see how they deploy him this week. Maybe he gets some more run. I mean, I don't know, but
you're already getting huffy. Listen to you, dog. You're a mess right now.
I am.
Why are you such a mess about this game? We're going over all the great things that happened against the Broncos, and you're like already wispy and can't breathe and.
How are you not?
You're a mess. Listen, I might be when it comes down to game time, but stone cold, man, I think they can win this game. Like, we're talking about the good things that happened last week, and you're exasperated. I don't know what to do. What do I tell you?
I don't know, dog.
I mean, holy shit.
Okay. All right, before we even get to the Ravens game, because we're gonna talk about that at length later in the show. We'll take our wins with beating the Broncos and Spencer Brown. Let's start with him.
100%. And I don't love those metrics, but anytime you can get 100% in anything. The man did not lose a rep on Sunday, according to a grading system. I don't care what grading system that is. That's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah, rewatching the game, and watching Spencer Brown, and it's just like he put on a clinic, man. He put on an absolute clinic. Um,
Sorry to cut you off.
no, go ahead.
Two very good edge rushers. He put on a clinic versus two incredible edge rushers. I like Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper a lot. That is not easy work, especially for a man his size. It was absolutely incredible.
I mean, you talk about hand placement, perfect. His hand placement was phenomenal. Leverage. I mean, dude, it's just golly, it was
Couple
poetry. It was
snatch traps in there too.
that he learned from Deion Dawkins. Yeah, it's Deion's signature.
That they learned from Aaron Cromer. Let's be real.
Yeah. And it's just like, damn, like he put on an absolute Picasso performance. It was beautiful. Yeah. It was beautiful, man. So seeing Deion and Spencer Brown go to work like that should give you confidence, some confidence going into this Ravens game. But I mean, we talked ad nauseum, how much the Broncos love the blitz. And we talked about tendency breakers. And one of the questions that we posed was who's going to break tendency first? And Vance Joseph kind of stuck with his game plan defensively.
Yeah, even I think under fire from the head coach a little bit, but when I was talking with Broncos people, I wanted to point out to defend him as quickly as I could. I mean, it was late in the third quarter and you were down by 6 and you had only put up 7 points. That is impressive when it comes to the Broncos and that defense. And the big reason is because when the Bills got in the low red zone, they could not put it in. And that's something, if we're talking about negatives from that game, that's something we got to talk about.
Yeah, the red zone offense for the Bills wasn't good, but it was like watching the film. I did see some opportunities that Josh did miss some opportunities. The third down where I felt like Kincaid should have got a pass interference call. I mean, he had Keon Coleman wide open on the right hand side near the pylon. Should have hit him there, but Josh was fixated on Keon, and he went up in the pocket, threw the ball, etc. And so there were opportunities there to rectify those red zone woes. So, I think that's something that Josh will go back and look at the film and go, okay.
What did they do real effectively? They caged him in. That cage rush, it was a little bit conservative and not what the Broncos did. It didn't work so well in the field. But when it came to the red zone, they did cage him in and they did stop him from creating with his legs, which would have given him that second play where he can go for some of those other reads that you're talking about. So, it's not something that I think every defense can do to him. It's unfortunately something that I do think the Ravens can do to him. And so you got to get it cleaned up in terms of progression 1, 2, and making sure you're getting the ball out of your hand.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that. I think the opposite on that. I do feel like the Ravens are a little bit undisciplined in that area. Now, there is one player that I'll mention, Kyle Van Noy, that, tends to be on point with his assignments like that. But we'll talk about that. Khalil Shakir, I felt like, even though the Bills didn't feature any wide receiver per se this game or any week, but I felt like he did enough. Like you saw, if you look at the stat sheet, you don't see eye-popping statistics from him, but he had some really good moments in that game. Not just from a receiving standpoint, but from a special team standpoint. Khalil did what he had to do, man. And that kind of stuff right there is, you continue to put more consistency on tape. Khalil he's just been the epitome of consistency this season. And that showed in the Broncos game where, he had, a few catches and just making people miss. He's just phenomenal at that. So I really liked what I saw from Khalil Shakir. And then watching the All-22, just from the route running perspective, I mean, there were some more opportunities for him to get some more receiving yards. So I thought he had a pretty good game.
Well, in the punt return too. I mean, I had Bronco friends who had admittedly not watched a lot of the Bills, and they knew his name from, at the beginning of the year, fantasy, that kind of thing, but they didn't really watch him, wasn't on any of their teams. Who came up to me afterwards and was like, okay, that dude, I mean, he can move a little bit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's got some wiggle. And yeah, I mean, I think he acquitted himself pretty well. Here's the thing. It was something that we talked about last week when we were talking about the preview for the game. Linebackers, safeties for the Broncos defense, probably the weakest portion of that. You know what I mean? For that defense. And so it was a situation where you needed him to do that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think their game plan accentuated the backs out of the backfield, putting receivers in the backfield. I mean, you saw a lot of Curtis Samuel in the backfield, a lot of motions. So they're already in the middle of the field. And I just think it created opportunities for Khalil to really shine.
Yeah. And he did what he had to do. James Cook. Can we talk about James Cook for a minute? James Cook really showed up. I mean, this guy, time and time again, I mean, he looks like a completely different back than he did last year. I mean, I think his contact balance has improved. You want to talk about the decision making, the decisiveness, getting, in the line of scrimmage, getting out of the mud. I mean, the vision. I mean, it's just been there, man. And he was on display this Sunday, and I think he's one of the big reasons why the Bills were able to, play that chew the clock and just bludgeon you with the run game. I mean, this team had over 200 yards on the ground. James Cook was a big part of that.
I think bludgeon's the right word. I felt like the Bronco fans felt it too, sitting there watching it.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, you do not have a small offensive line. Those are a bunch of big boys.
Right.
And you put big sets in there. You put Alec Anderson as a 6 offensive lineman. There were some times, and I didn't see this, but I don't doubt it at all, that there were sometimes they went with 7, apparently, offensive linemen.
Yep.
They got introduced to Sledgy Gilliam. They got introduced to Quentin Morris. They found out that Matt Collins is a more than willing blocker. I mean, you really wore them down. And I think that's why by the end of the game, it felt like the game was further away than it really was.
Yeah.
I mean, you were at most, at points you were only up by 6. There was a good portion you were up by 14, but it just felt like that game was over. You know what I mean? Like there was, and I think that's part of the reason.
Yeah. I mean, the Bills won obviously 31-7, but for the game to be so close, we could talk about the sequence at halftime. I mean, back to the defense, and we're going to go back and forth on some of this stuff too. But I'm just pointing out as we go through the game here, man, the defense, where a moment where you thought, okay, the defense is going to, the Bills kind of get, they like to play that soft zone, especially into halves, and they're it's very bend don't break, so they're going to be a little bit loose, and they're going to give you pass yards. But man, I felt like they did a really good job of really limiting Bo Nix in that offense and forcing them to kick a field goal that they end up missing. And I think that's I think that was a turning point in the game. Like that was the start of the turning point. Them missing that field goal, and you can kind of tell. I mean, even in the bar, you notice this, that the excitement from Broncos fans, they were like, oh, you know what I mean? That was it for me.
I think what it does is it shows you the power of those 2 middle linebackers.
Yep.
And we've talked about it for feels like 2 years now. What would it be like for those 2 to be on the field together at the height of their powers? When you're talking about limiting that offense, when you let the 4 or 5 guys on the back end do whatever they need to do, and you let the 4 guys up front rush and those guys are such malleable pieces that you can insert them into the rush. You can blitz
Right.
them. You can have them cover. It creates so many options for you as a defensive play caller. Yeah, man. I mean, it's hard for me not to be hopeful that they can't look that good the rest of the postseason. I really do believe it.
Yeah, they consistently change. They changed the picture. You know, the throws that they took off the menu because, you know, they're so adept at coverage and being in the right spaces and things like that. Terrell Bernard and Matt Milano, Matt Milano impressed me in terms of his responsibilities in pass coverage this week. I mean, he really answered the bell. You know, you talked earlier about how they used him as a spy at points and times in the game, and that really shined through. Like, you know, I think, you know, with Milano, it was just getting comfortable in the scheme again, and we saw that show itself the past few games that he's played, and you know, against the Jets, you're like, okay, it's a good game. I was a little reserved. I'm like, oh, okay, like, yes. But to see him do that in this playoff game against the Broncos, you're like, okay, now I can really put my, you know, I can put my confidence in it. It very likened to what we saw from Terrell Bernard last year. Remember, you and I talked about, you know, after like the third game, we're like, Terrell Bernard's here to stay. And I felt like Matt Milano had that moment just to reassure us that he's back to the player that he once was. I thought he did that pretty well on Sunday.
And I felt like it takes some of the load off those safeties. You know what I mean? Those safeties feel a little bit more comfortable on the back end when they have two guys up there who they trust and they know are going to be in the right spot, right? I mean, of course they are. So to me, yeah, I mean, it just changes the way that whole defense plays and looks. So, I mean, listen, I thought there was a ton of good stuff in this Denver game. I have no idea how you're to the point of drinking yourself to sleep here. Like, I don't know. I don't know what to say to you. I don't think they could have looked better on Sunday. I really don't. I mean, finishing a couple times in the low red zone. But I mean, that game, I was never ever concerned about it.
Yeah, I mean, after halftime, it was you knew we had it in the bag. I mean, the Bills. I mean, the defense really showed up, and I hope they can string together another performance to where I don't expect them to hold the Ravens to 7 points. I think that's impossible. But they showed me some things. Ed Oliver, particularly, played really well, and I think he has a favorable matchup this week too.
Impossible.
Impossible what?
7 points. Holding them to
Yeah.
7.
Oh yeah. That's not happening. That's not happening.
Okay.
Come on now, dog. You don't think that's possible?
They're a normal game for an offense is 11 drives.
Mm-hmm.
Normally 11 possessions. There was 8 on each side last week. 7 real ones because the Bills took knees on one of them. This is not the first time the Bills offense has done something like that. I think they had over 40 minutes of time of possession.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. You don't think the Bills can do that again?
Against the Ravens? No, I don't.
You don't think the clock's going to be ticking because they're going to be running the ball as much as we are? I think there's something to be said for this being a lower scoring game than people think it will be. And granted, it's two terrific offenses. And so, no, I'm not saying 7 per se.
Right. No, I feel you, though.
But I do think you could get a very low scoring game here, just in terms of the number of possessions each team has to convert on. Now, the Bills have still been able to turn that small number of possessions into 30 points pretty consistently. So I might be eating my words, but one of the ways that you can handle an MVP quarterback is by making sure that he doesn't touch the ball as often as he'd like to. And so I think both teams are going to be thinking that.
Don't you think though, like if that's your plan, like I'm thinking like I need as many possessions as I can get on offense, just because maybe you're not as confident in, what you're going to have on defense. Like, I feel like your offense is a known commodity and I can rely on the offense. I don't feel that way about the defense. So I'm thinking like, I need the ball as much as I can get it.
I think you need to be thinking what this team has done so well all year, and it's the thing that you can't quantify, is win the turnover battle. I'm sorry, you can't quantify it. You can't count on it.
Yeah.
Is winning the turnover battle. There's a certain amount of luck that comes with doing that. But part of that, half of it, is making sure that you don't turn the ball over.
Right.
And I think what you can't do is give them extra possessions.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily agree that you need to generate as many possessions as you can. I think you just need to make sure that you take advantage of the possessions that you have. And I think that's what didn't happen the first time.
Yeah. You definitely need to take advantage of those possessions. I think it's, I guess it's one of those, okay, I think they need to have like, be able to change modes where if they go in there and they're like, okay, the defense is like what we expect in terms of it's Derrick Henry, it's Lamar Jackson, they're being dynamic, they're chewing up the field, they're scoring, then you need to go into hyper mode, and which is okay, we need the ball and we need to score. This is going to be a shootout. But yeah, if you can kind of dictate terms, and one of the ways you dictate terms is winning at the line of scrimmage. Can this team win at the line of scrimmage? I think they can offensively. Defensively, we'll see.
Well, and that's one thing that we've talked about with this game all year long. The game that you had before, the game script got away from you.
Yeah.
It just got away from you. And there were times that I thought you had a chance to grab control back of it, but just weren't able to do it. James Cook that day, 9 for 39. Josh Allen, 16 of 29 with 180 yards. If I gave you those for under-overs for this game, would you pick under or over?
Smash the over on both.
Right. Exactly my point.
And you want to know why, though?
The chance either one of those guys has the same game he had that week. What was that, week 4?
Yeah.
Come on. It's not. It just won't happen. I don't believe it'll happen.
You talk about chemistry. The offensive line at that point in time during the season, they were struggling with some of their assignments and just the chemistry and just knowing where each other is going to be. Since then, I mean, this offensive line has been, I would say, probably top 3 in the league. I mean, I think you can point to, Detroit and a couple other teams, but the Bills have been right there. I mean, they have really shown up each and every week, and so I think this team can win at the line of scrimmage when they're on offense, without a shadow of a doubt.
Well, and so you're worried about them winning at the line of scrimmage on defense.
Absolutely.
And to that, I would say, I think you got to take a deep breath, because even so, you get guys like Dwayne Carter who are getting a lot of snaps in that game.
Right.
Right. You're hoping that you can put forth a better effort from your D line. But one of the things that helps your D line a whole lot is having linebackers that are in the head of the offensive lineman. If they're thinking, I got to get off this double team and get to that linebacker, and I know he's going to be aggressive in my chili, you know what I mean, around a side, I got to get off that block just that half second quicker to get to the second level. That's when you can start affecting the way that they play. And so, yes, it more happens the other way, where the D-line helps the linebackers. But if you have linebackers that are as good as the Bills do, you can affect the way the offensive line is thinking and playing. And if you can do that, I think you can have a better day from the D-line. Remember, it wasn't just Matt Milano that was out that week.
Right.
It was Bernard too. And so you were lining up Balen Spector and Dorian Williams every snap. You also didn't have Taron Johnson, which, due respect to Cam Lewis or Jamarcus Ingram or whoever was filling in at that point, but he's just not the same kind of run fitter that Taron Johnson is. And so those are 3 big pieces to say, can you win the line of scrimmage? Are you going to dominate their offensive line? Probably not. But can you win the line of scrimmage with your second level coming up to help? I think you can.
Yeah. Yeah. So listen, there's some, after watching a few games, all 22, I watched it on Monday. There are some takeaways that I do have. I think this team, Baltimore Ravens, I think they're weak. They're not well. They're weak at guard. Let's just be completely honest. You got Patrick McCarry and Daniel Faalele, or excuse, if I butchered his name, I apologize. But I think these are two guys, especially right guard with Faalele. If Daquan Jones and Ed Oliver can have the game similar to what they had on Sunday, I think it starts with them. Those are the two weakest links. And then, you got a rookie right tackle in Roger Rosengarten from University of Washington.
Colorado.
Yeah, right in our own backyard here. Love the kid, but he's still trying to figure it out. I think that, look, the Ravens' offensive line hasn't been that great this year. Now they have terrific playmakers in the backfield, but they're not the Monstars. They can be had on the offensive line. Now Tyler Linderbaum, he's legit. Like, he passes the grade from a pass blocking standpoint and a run blocking standpoint. But man, I think if you really attack, and to your point, with our two really good linebackers, what's one of the things that they do really well? They are very adept at shooting gaps, getting skinny and shooting gaps. And I think you can beat them, even though the Bills present a smaller offensive line. But what the Bills do give you is that quickness, and I think that could be something that they can use to their advantage on Sunday.
The best way to stop a running back that size is to get him before he gets started.
Yep.
So knifing in and getting him in the backfield, it will be huge. And here's the other thing, and this is not a shot at their weapons, but let's call it what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You're not concerned about your defensive backfield versus their wide receivers. I mean, without Zay Flowers, there is no concern there. And even if Zay plays, his health, he's going to need to prove it to me before I'm scared of him.
Yep.
Which means that you can leave those four guys in coverage by themselves.
Yep.
And you can scheme to stop the run. And listen, they're going to make some plays. Lamar's going to make some plays. Henry's going to slip a tackle. I mean, it's going to happen. They're great players. But without that threat on the outside, I think you can really key on stopping the run and see if you can get those guys bottled up.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about Tylan Wallace, Rashad Bateman, Nelson Aguilar. I think this is a game where defensively, if you play a little bit more man coverage and press these guys, I think you can find some success there. I'm not worried about Nelson Aguilar. I know he's our guy with speed. Rashad Bateman, I still think, he could be had at the top of stems with physicality. So you got two corners for the Bills who are physical.
Listen, they're solid vets, right?
Yeah.
They're third wide receivers who've been around the NFL a long time. They know what they're doing. There's no question, but you're not scared of them versus Benford and Douglas. You're not.
Right.
And so, maybe it's man coverage. I'm not even opposed to you playing some kind of fire zone where you're playing zone coverage behind a run blitz. Like, I think the four guys on the back end should have no problem handling that.
Absolutely.
Where your issue comes in is those two big tight ends.
Yep.
And so while these linebackers are playing the run, they also have to keep an eye out for Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews getting out into the pattern as well.
Yeah, I do think that you're going to see, one of the ways that the Bills were exploited in the playoffs last year. I know it's a totally different year, totally different defensive roster, pretty much. I mean, because of the availability. But I think you're going to see the Ravens play a little 12 and 13 personnel. I think they want to line up Take advantage of the Bills being a smaller defensive unit up front.
Don't you feel great if you're about that, though? I mean, if that's what really happens, don't you feel great going into the game like that?
Only
You're gonna
if
you're gonna take the ball out of Lamar's hand. You're gonna have Derrick Henry try to beat us. You're gonna load up the box and go 13 personnel. Right?
think,
like let me just play defense against the run. And
but,
yeah, you might drive it up and down the field, but I'm not afraid of that.
well, look at you saw what the Ravens did last week. They used Derrick Henry and Wildcat, and had Lamar Jackson kind of pose a threat, kind of in a jet sweep formation. So yeah, I think that's something they're going to do. I think they're going to want to, I think the Ravens are going to want to try to establish dominance at the line of scrimmage on offense and use Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely to really block down those defensive ends and really get after it. So it's
But let them. They're not the ones who stop the run for us.
right.
That's not right. Like put 3 tight ends on Epinesa. I don't care. Put 3 tight ends on Groot. I don't care. What I need is penetration right up the middle from Daquan Jones and Ed Oliver, and I need those linebackers having a day. And yes, they are going to have a day. Derrick Henry is an offensive lineman playing running back, but I think they can do it. I think they can get it done.
Yeah, if you want to talk about like a player for the Bills that, man, you would love for him to step up. I think this is the kind of game that really benefits him well is Dorian Williams. In a base 4-3 defense, if you see these guys going,
you're taking off the field.
Well, no, hold on. If they're going 12 and 13, right?
Okay, who are you taking off the field?
DeMar Hamlin.
But you can't. You can't, because what are you going to do? Run Taryn at safety? You can't do that. You can't run. He's got 0 reps.
They better figure it out, dog. DeMar Hamlin is the question for everything. Who? DeMar Hamlin. Who? DeMar Hamlin. DeMar Hamlin's been fine, but yeah, I mean, listen. Yeah, I mean, I guess you want to see how it goes. I mean, if Taryn can hold, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I still would substitute Taryn from time to time, just so, I mean, we saw that I can't afford Taryn getting hurt, right? So if he's good to go and it's all good, then yeah, obviously Dorian doesn't need to play. But I think, early downs, like first down, and they're running with these heavy personnel. I would like to see Dorian in there to get some run.
Here's the real question. If you play base and you put 3 linebackers on the field, who are you putting on what side? I mean, I guess you're putting Milano on the strong side.
Yeah, I'd put, well, nah,
right? Like who's your Sam and who's your Will?
I keep Milano on the weak side. But I
put Dorian on the strong side?
Well,
I don't think he's ever done that, has he?
Well, I feel like Dorian's better against the run. That's why.
He's a little bit more stout, but I just...
But yeah, I don't know. I mean,
in terms of mentally the assignments, I don't know which one of them is more comfortable with playing the Sam side of the field. You know what I mean? And like, it is different, right? Now you're talking about taking on blocks. You're taking on Patrick Ricard and Mark Andrews, as opposed to being the weak side linebacker and being a bit more free. So
but real quick though, you do know, like last season, they were training Dorian for all 3 linebacker positions, right?
Okay. I mean, listen, if you're telling me he's comfortable with the mental assignment, because what was the number one problem that we had with him? And he started to come around as the year went on, and that's why we started giving him his flowers. But what was the number one problem we had with him? It's up here.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not his physical ability. We know that, right? It's
improved a little bit. It improved a little bit.
No, it did. It did, and he had a couple real good games.
Yeah.
But if you switch him out of position, do you still get that same thing? Because what I think I might rather is put Milano out of position and put Dorian back where he's comfortable, because I trust Milano to think the game a little bit more than I trust Dorian to think the game. So it's an interesting question.
So for a matchup base, like, you're looking at, okay, so then what side are they putting Andrews on and what side are they putting Likely on? And we're just talking about heavy sets, right? So if Andrews is playing, the strong side, right? I'd rather have Milano there.
Well, and so with pro offenses, generally you call strength towards the tight end, but you might not do that here. You might call strength towards either Patrick Ricard,
Right. That's
right?
true.
Or opposite of where Derrick Henry's lined up if they're in a shotgun, right? So if you're in the shotgun, Derrick Henry's on the left, you'll call strong side to the right to make sure that, you know what I mean? And you do in college, it's more like field and boundary that you call strength to,
Mhm.
right? Like the wide side, you call that field, and that's where you call the strength. I don't know. Maybe they don't flip at all. You don't have to. You know,
You don't have to, but it would just.
we're
I
saying
think.
Sam and Will, and if both guys know both positions, then you don't have to flip at all. You know
I
what I
just think
mean?
right, and I think it would be more advantageous if they could delineate something there. But I think what about in those pistol sets, right? So you're gonna have Ricard on that strong side right next to Lamar Jackson. That's going to be something to look out. So that means, you do that, and then probably one of the tight ends, is off the field. So you're either looking at Likely or Andrews, and then you have Ricard as that up back and Henry behind. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that you can run off that. So I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting to see
If they
Todd
listen, if
what
they want to
Todd
load up,
Monken does.
if they want to load up and go 22 personnel, or go 13, or go whatever, right? That's great for me. That's great for you are not going to be able to run the ball as effectively as I can throw it. You're just not.
But you got to look at it from a Ravens point of view. I'm sure they think. Well, I mean, they're not stupid, obviously, but they got to be thinking, okay, yeah, we're just going to come in, just like last time and fucking run the ball down their throat.
Volume. Yeah, sure.
Right. So
Sure.
I'm just throwing this scenario out there as something they could be thinking. Now, if you want to talk about, I think if they go into full, straight up pass mode, oh no, I think that you're playing into the Bills' trap there. And I'm not knocking Lamar Jackson as a passer or thrower of the football, but I think that's where you play into the Bills' strength. I mean, with those our two coverage linebackers in our secondary, I think that's the strength of the defense.
So it's when you have these conversations, what drives me a little bit crazy is all the NFL guys know this. This is not we're not reinventing the wheel here. So really what you want to talk about is you want to talk about passing out of two backs, two tight ends, or passing out of one back, three tight ends. And you want to talk about running the ball out of 11 or 10 personnel, right? That's really what you want to do. So you're saying they're going to run these big sets, and I'm saying if they're going to run two backs, two tight ends, and then actually run the football where you can match personnel and stop they will lose that game. But if they run 10 personnel, they run 11 personnel. It's probably not going to be 10. They won't go four wides.
Right.
If they run 11 personnel and then hammer Derrick Henry into a 6-man box, that's how they can win the game. So I do agree with you. They are playing into our hands if they line up in a pass formation and pass it. But I don't think they will. I think they're going to line up in a pass formation and run it. And then I think they're going to line up in a run formation and throw it to Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely.
Yeah, up the seam, right? And that's where I think that puts more of the pressure on Daquan and Ed Oliver in those. That's why we're talking about earlier when we started this preview was that the Ravens could be had at guard. They can be had at guard. It's not like this is an all-pro offensive line. I don't see it. But their guards, I think that's their weakest link on their offensive line, and they have to win those matchups. If they win those matchups, I'll tell you, man, the probability of this team winning goes to 60%.
And that's why I mentioned those linebackers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can just one play. Give me one play when you're in the script still where you knife in and you tackle Derrick Henry in the background with Milano or Bernard. And every time those guards are going to be thinking about their double teams or anything like that, thinking I need to get to the second level, they're just going to speed up just that little bit. And then your D tackles are able to slip and get into the backfield. You know what I mean?
Right.
So listen, like we said, the game script got away from them last time. They started feeling themselves. The offensive line felt like they could manhandle them, and they did. And they road graded you. But you've got to try to flip the script on that a little bit now and get in their heads instead of the other way around.
So let me ask you a question. How often do you think Bobby Babbage is going to blitz Lamar Jackson?
I don't.
I'm hoping that they don't. But, we've seen them get a little happy with calling some of these blitzes.
See, and I'm the opposite. I'd love them to. Heat him up, and then if he breaks contain, if you're blitzing, you're probably playing man, which means everybody's looking at him, and you hope you get him on the ground.
Right.
But I'm a risk taker. You know what I mean? If I'm calling the plays, I'm taking my chances. Because here's my thought. If I take the risk and get torched, what am I doing? I'm putting Josh Allen back on the field, and we're going to go try to score 7.
Yeah, I'm hoping, they can get the job done, right?
Worse things have happened to me than Josh Allen having the football in his hands. So, but I don't think they will. I think they'll play it more conservative than that. I think they'll play it a lot like the Broncos played the Bills this week.
Sure. Yeah, I'd like to see a little cover one in there too. That'd be nice.
I just don't think you will. I really don't.
I know.
And I think your corners are better than their wide receivers, so I'm comfortable with you playing some cover one, but I don't think you see too much man to man.
Yeah, yeah, probably not, man. But look, if you're playing zone and you can have eyes on the backfield, and you can execute, I'm totally fine with that. Totally fine with that.
Before we get out of here, let's quick flip to the other side of the ball, dog.
Let's do it.
Because I want to hear what you have to say about their defensive line, because I don't know that I agree with you on it.
Why not? Their defensive line, I mean, I like Madubuike. I like Jones. I think Travis Jones has played some good football this year. But I don't think that they are let's put it into context. So there's a lot that's been said. People have been riding this coattail of the Ravens talking about how good their defense has been. They hadn't played anybody in 7 weeks. Come on, man. When the Steelers is on that schedule and some other, bottom feeder offenses.
All I've heard about is how good the NFC North is, my man.
Yeah. I mean, come on, dog. Let's not sit here and act like this front seven. I think it's good. I do think it's good. At linebacker, they're extremely. Kyle Van Noy's phenomenal. Madubuike is really good, but it's not like this formidable front that just can't be beat. So I think there's opportunities here. I really do. I think that defensive line could be had, man. You look at a guy like Tavius Robinson, right? Plays edge. He's not that good, bro. He's not that good. I'm sorry.
I like Owe. I love Van Noy.
Uh-huh.
I'm a big Roquan Smith guy.
They don't play Owe enough, and I think it's because he's poor, in stopping the run. Right, he's more of a late down, third down guy that they want to rush, get out of the passer. But Tavius Robinson is outpacing him in snaps.
I'm a huge Kyle Hamilton fan. I think most people who watch that defense are.
Oh yeah,
he's one of the best safeties in the league.
And Ardarius Washington has done some really good work. He's done some really good work. So I'm impressed with him. I mean, he pops out on film, dude.
I say all that to say, give me our offensive line in that matchup every day.
Okay.
Every day. Especially with how much they're feeling themselves right now.
Yeah.
I will take our offensive line in that matchup in the cold at night in Buffalo. Give it to me. And I want you to pound those fools. I'm make them beg for their mother. I can't tell you. Because then the moment that I do have to put it into Josh's hands, I am not the game plan to me this week should be the opposite of what it was last week. I think you should be looking to get your wide receivers involved. I think Amari Cooper can win. I think Keon Coleman can win. I think Khalil Shakir again can win.
Yeah.
And so if you can demoralize them a little bit at the start of the game, and then all of a sudden you start hitting outside passes, I would stay away from challenging Kyle Hamilton. But other than that, I mean, I'm looking at their lineup. Nate Wiggins.
Yeah. Marlon Humphrey.
He's good, but he's been hurt all year. I'm not sure how healthy he really is. So, I mean, okay, Marlon Humphrey, but they moved him inside for a reason.
Yeah, he's playing nickel right now.
Yeah. They moved him to nickel for a reason. So, I mean, okay, maybe he can take away somebody like Khalil Shakir, but I like my chances.
If that's what you want to do it, because I think that's gonna, you're opening yourself up. Dalton Kincaid's gonna start working. Dawson Knox is gonna start working. But yeah, I think you stay away from Kyle Hamilton at all costs. I mean, I think you're just gonna have to, confuse him, a lot. I think bunch sets in this game. I think that's going to be critical. I think
that's what they've been doing a lot of recently. Yeah, it's been the apple of Joe Brady's eye. And listen, there's so many different ways that you can have them from the snap leave from those bunch formations that they are constantly getting off without a real jam or any kind of real concern getting off the line of scrimmage. He's been really creative, bringing one of the guys in motion, coming out of the backfield. The bunch formations have been everywhere, and they've looked good.
And the weakest link on their defense is Malik Harrison. Get that man in pass coverage. I think, that's an advantage Bills big time. So, that's where, having Dalton Kincaid, having
Go
Keon
back to
Coleman.
the 80s, baby.
Hey man, Keon Coleman has a big slot in some sets. You see Matt Collins do it. You see Kincaid do it, and Keon Coleman do it. So I think if there's an area where, okay, let's say if you don't feel that confident in running the ball against this defense, that's totally fine. But this defense can be had in pass coverage. I mean, look, they moved Kyle Hamilton back for a reason because they needed big time help back there, and he shored up the back end. But I think listen, I think if you attack that secondary, I think, looking at Amari Cooper one-on-one, because, you're going to have Humphrey on Shakir likely, I think this is an Amari Cooper game. Throwing the ball.
I think it's a Cooper Coleman. I agree with you. I think it's a Cooper Coleman. And listen, if you find yourself in a matchup scenario where you're getting Ty Johnson or Dalton Kincaid on one of those linebackers, Harrison in specific, okay, great. Take advantage of your matchup. But I think this is an outside wide receiver game.
Yeah.
I think this is what you got Amari for. And we watched those two games earlier in the year, and there's a lot of reasons that they lost those games. But one of them was because teams challenged you to beat them on the outside, and you couldn't do it. And so now you need to go in there and you need to beat them on the outside, and I think you can.
Yeah, they're going to have to. And add to that, I think don't be afraid to take your shots downfield. And not saying Josh, he's afraid or anything like that, but I think you need to take your shots downfield. Let's also mention that this Ravens defense is undisciplined in terms of penalties. I think they lead the league in penalties. I don't know how many it is a game, but I think it's 8 to 10 a game that they're being committed against him. So put the pressure on him and throw the ball in high leverage situations. You trust Josh to be smart with those, to make the smart right decision in those situations. But yeah, I mean, I want to throw the ball down the field. Let's get some kind of what they did with Seattle, right? They threw the ball down the field with Keon Coleman and so forth, and they were benefited. They were benefited with some pass interference calls. So yeah, throw that damn ball down the field, man, and make these guys make plays.
Dave King on the YouTube page says, didn't Josh have a broken hand in that Ravens game as well? It makes me wonder what sort of difference we'll see, especially with the team chemistry. I do think the broken hand's a good point there. I mean, he's only 2 weeks removed from it at that point. Yeah, it happened in the Arizona game at the very end of it. So he's only a couple weeks away from having broken the hand. You wonder how much that affected him. How much they wanted to be under center, which they don't want a ton of that anyway. But just that kind of little stuff, including handing the ball off. If you remember, he was handing the ball off with the wrong hand. Now, I don't know if that went all the way to the Ravens game or not. I think that might have just been the next week. I'm not sure.
Not sure.
But yeah, I mean, you wonder how healthy he feels and if that's something that they can take advantage of in terms of being able to run more of their playbook, being able to get to more things because his hand's comfortable and they're comfortable running him, which, I mean, it's the playoffs now, right? So for the whole year when we're talking about, ooh, don't run Josh, don't do this, don't do that. Not anymore. Not anymore. Now it's run Josh. And Lamar showed you that last week with 10 rushes or whatever it was. I think the same thing goes for Josh this week. If you are, you seem to think maybe they'll have a little bit of trouble getting the running game started. If you are, then you need to start calling plays for Josh using his legs.
Yeah, I think you stick to your bread and butter. I like what they've done in terms of their gap runs. I mean, their zone runs have been really good too. But yeah, man, get cooking space and Roquan Smith is a dog. That guy, he's just good all the way around. Roquan Smith is the right kind of linebacker that a defense needs. But yeah, I mean, listen, I'm just saying, like, if I just don't know if it'd be nice if our offensive line established dominance from a pass and run standpoint. Yeah, if you could do that, then great. I do think though that their three guys up front pose some real hard problems in terms of being stout at the point of attack. I think that's where they shine. So yeah, you may not be able to run it, between the tackles as much or with as much success as you'd like, but there are some opportunities where they can be exploited.
How you feeling, big dog?
I mean, hey, so Steve Noble, he was with me at the beginning of the show. He said he's nervous too. Watched the Ravens pie yesterday, and they're planning for the Chiefs already.
Okay.
Wow, that's bold.
It's. I mean, listen, if you want to start game planning for a game next year, that's great. If you want to be ready for it, good for you.
Yeah, sign off on that. I mean, I feel better. It's not, it's like you psych yourself up because you hear so much outside noise, right? When I'm at work, I'm listening to sports radio, to different things, and you just hear all the bullshit that people are saying about the Bills and basically that they don't really have a shot in this game. I think a lot of it's influenced by MVP talk. It's like you can't talk about Lamar Jackson being great without talking about Josh Allen being great. It's just like this back and forth, visceral, tiring conversation. And
I don't think people are saying that they don't have a shot, but I have seen plenty of people picking the Ravens. And listen, that's exactly where I want this team to be.
Talk about the spread too. Go ahead.
Well, it's flipped. I mean, it started Bills minus 1.5. It's flipped all the way to Bills plus 1.5. And I think it's going to get all the way to 2.5 because there is this hype train for the Ravens right now that is, I mean, unbelievable. So great. I mean, Doug, would you want it any other way?
I wouldn't. I felt uncomfortable with the Bills being favored in that game.
Yeah, how much anxiety did we have last week? Because you just don't lose this game. You should win this game. Don't lose this game. Man, I think that team is going to be offended that they're underdogs. I think they've got as much talent, if not more, on the roster. They might be short a blue chip guy. If you're putting blue chips versus blue chips, they might be short a blue chip guy compared to the Ravens roster. But top to bottom, I feel like it's as talented as the Ravens roster, and I think probably better. So
yeah, what I told somebody today, I said, the Ravens might have the better roster by name, but I said the Bills have the better team. The way they complement each other, offense, defense, special teams.
Yeah, talent-wise, I do not think they have more talent than the Bills. And, the Bills have to prove that, right? It's one of those things where the Bills' names and talent are guys that the league hasn't heard of yet because they haven't been through a run like this. But they need to make their name. They need to put their foot down and make their name. And, yeah, I think they'll end up, when we look back at it, it was interesting when we did that a couple months ago and we went through the rosters and what roster would you take. But when we look back at this roster in a couple of years, I think we're going to be like, oh, man, look at that thing is stacked. A bunch of guys on rookie contracts, and somehow you were able to afford all of them at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. But I feel better, to answer your question. I mean, this is a
sure, because you were
game.
ready to drink earlier. So
Well, I know I did drink, and I might have some more tomorrow. So I don't know, dog. I think this is the game where the Bills can win this game. I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick is leading the charge, baby. You see that today? You know, I'm excited about that. Kyle Williams was phenomenal.
Baby, let's go.
Kyle Williams was great last week. I think having Ryan Fitzpatrick shirtless leading the charge. Come on, man. You can't get better than that.
Listen, I think it's as 50-50 as it gets.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Sure.
These are going to be two good teams going at it, and hopefully home field advantage plays into it a little bit here. They can make it rough for you. You count on the Mafia to do some work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I feel good about the Bills in this case, and who knows? I could be on here next week mad because I will be angry if they lose.
Oh man,
another year, another opportunity they should let go.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Well, I think that'll do it for tonight's show, man.
All right.
I
don't want to talk to you no more either.
I think we covered a lot. I mean, we're gonna see, man. This is it though. I mean, this is one of the boogeymans that you gotta get through. You know, you got 3 tough games left. What are you gonna do? Right?
I feel you, dog. I mean, you got to take them one game at a time. If you worry about the next one, you won't have a next one. So
facts. Well, make sure if you haven't done so already, make sure you like, follow, subscribe to the channel. Hit Rob and I up on the X machine, if you want to call it that. Our socials are there on the screen. And then, if you comment on the show, we'll be sure to respond to you. I mean, we want this to be interactive. You're going to see us and TD and some other people that we're going to bring in here, throughout the week, talking about all kinds of stuff, Bills related, info, draft, you name it. We're going to talk about it. So make sure you like, follow, subscribe to the YouTube channel. But with that being said, go Bills. This is the Charge Podcast Network, right? And Intentional Grounding, and we out of here.